Hello, everyone, and welcome to our circle, Anne Salve women. So I'm going to move in a little bit close because it looks like there's light in my face, and I just don't have the time right now to worry about it. So you're going to see like I'm breaking out with adult acne or whatever, but whatever, right? I mean, you just embrace you no matter what, and it's just temporary. So no matter what I'm eating, it's making me happy, I guess. Anyhow, today our lesson or our discussion is a student for a time, a learner for life. And this, of course, goes into reflection of or in connection with my reflection for my article, A Student for Life, or a student for a time, a learner for life. And so I really want you to know that, in your 20s, if you are there right now, there are so many things about life where you're starting to think, I get it now. I totally, totally get it. And, I know things now. And yet when you're in your 30s, you're like, you know what? I just started to know things, but I really didn't know a lot. And then, but you're thinking, okay, but I'm starting to mature. I'm starting to really get it down. And I'm starting to see a lot more of the realities, the unfortunate and then the fortunate ones that you really have to focus on and just understand that humans are who they are and that you can only do your best to be the best part of your example that you're meant to be so that those around you will shine. And I always think to myself that as you continue to spread the light, then darkness will then eventually go away, or at least won't be within your circle. And so for this discussion, I really wanted to shed a light on how many of us, and just speaking on my behalf, thinking that you walk into a classroom as a student and you think to yourself, I already know this stuff, or why do I even need to learn this stuff? Or I'm just doing this because I'm supposed to be here and I'm supposed to do what you're asking me to do, or I'm just going to be, out of respect as a student, complete everything that I'm supposed to be completing, and then I'm going to get out of here, and then I'm just going to move on with life and do other things. And that's a great attitude, just to fulfill what is necessary. And yet, how many of us continue to be that way, even when you no longer really are truly labeled as a student? And so in really that mentality or that mindset, you have to think to yourself, now as a teacher, I know that there are two different students coming into my classroom, one that is a student, one is a learner. You can tell the students, and not to anyone's fault, because we've all been there. You come in, there are just days where you're feeling some kind of way and you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do and I'm just going to get out of here and then move on. And that typically is what we get out of life, right? Just putting in our requirements. And yet there's that learner, and the one that comes in, it's like, what are we learning today? Or they're out there with their notes and they're ready to go and they're asking questions, they are collaborating, they are engaging, they are really doing what they feel is necessary, and most of the time above and beyond to a teacher's thankfulness and their gratitude of really seeing that there are those students who are overzealous about learning more and learning from their errors so that they can then know never to make that mistake again. That challenge of going, oh, I got it wrong, so what? Okay, now I'm going to know how to do it right from now on. And so, that try is so important in a learner, and knowing that there are still so much for me to really understand, and I am welcoming all of the many steps, perhaps, that it'll take to get to that part where I feel masterful, that I can then teach it to someone else. Teaching math, I tell my students all the time, there's really no true master mathematician. And we, of course, there are some that are out there just exquisite with the mind and just the phenomena of being able to understand math to such a high level. And I would definitely not put myself in that category, because for me, I feel like understanding is instinctive to a certain degree, and yet there are those, their instincts are beyond measure. And yet I tell my students, just to give them that comfort and understand that there are still math problems that are yet to be solved. So if we really look at it from that perspective, there is not one master mathematician in this world, and yet math is the universal language. It is one that has its own functionalities that can be spoken in many different languages, and yet the quantitative pieces that are being spoken are understood. And so this is us always trying to understand in a math world how to do certain concepts, and to be able to communicate in that way so that pardon me, whatever is the answer in one country will be the same answer in another country, and we can speak and understand each other in that type of dialogue. So, with that said, as a learner, I remember being certified and thinking to myself, well, I'm done being a student. Now they can just come in and meet me. And, I will take the authoritarian type of role where they respect me as a teacher. I respect them as a student. And I am here to teach, and they're here to take whatever they are supposed to from me so that then they can thrive to excel and then move on. And, those are the mentalities that I came in with. And yet, I came to understand that there was so much more that, I had just yet perhaps ended myself as a student, but there was so much to learn in this world that at every given time there was an exchange of thought, there was an exchange of aha moments, there was exchange of just inquiring or curiosities. I found out that there was so much more that I had yet to learn, and the way I was going to be able to really receive as much as I could and siphon it from, anything and everything was really to listen to my students and my own children. And, we always want to be a bit more confident and reassuring that we know enough to survive in this world, and that's a good attitude. And I know that my resilience to really thinking to myself, what, I have the natural instincts or just a natural desire to come in and look around and be able to adapt. That is something that is powerful within itself to come into. And yet some of us think to ourselves, well, I haven't been a student for a long time. And yet, if you really ask yourself, how much have you changed? Are you truly saying that you're no longer a student just because, quote unquote, you aren't? And yet you're coming into work, you're coming in to whatever day you're welcoming or you're embracing, and not much has changed. You're just giving what's required, and you're going in, even if it's to the gym. How many times have I gone into the gym and I see people just going in, doing their thing, and then they're leaving, and I question, all right, is there some goal that they created, and is there progress that's being made? And there's no judgment. It really helps me to reflect upon myself. And I'm hoping that by me saying this, I know that for me, when I say some things and I look back and I honestly, there are times where I look and I say, were these my words from a human mentality, or is this like my mind, my heart, my spirit really speaking? And all I can really truly say is sometimes, I feel 99% of the time I'm like, okay, this is my heart, mind, and my spirit speaking. And yet sometimes that human part comes in, and it's only because the curiosities of how other people think and how people do, when the ugly starts to really come out, you realize that when you have a goodness of heart, not everybody is thinking and feeling the same way, and then you somehow get sucked into that, because whether you've been bruised or scarred or hurt, you then start to see the ugly in the world, and then all of a sudden, you're drained from it all, and then you no longer are that high in spirit all the time. Like, you want to be 100% high in spirit all the time, good-natured, good person, just good heart with a good heart and mind and spirit. And yet that gets tampered with, with the many interactions. And so I see that in my students. I see them drained. First period, they're just waking up, and we joke around and say, it's okay, at least, you're here and you are attentive, and I thank you for it. And then by sixth period, you do see them getting excited, because guess what? They get to move on. They go home and they get to just move away from school for a moment before they have to return. Yet right after lunch, that is when I see some students really start to show bitterness, show some type of anxiety, or show some type of just a reaction that is not one that perhaps they would have given in first period, and then they are apologetic for their actions because they didn't mean to, and I know it, and yet it still happens, and it's still not, to be accepted, because you have to set expectations. But that's how we are as humans, aren't we? It's like we go to work, And we still act like that student that comes in. And sometimes, when we're having a great day, we're feeling like a 10 from the time that we were getting up and we knew it. And we have a lot of greatness in us, and a lot of light to share. You're just light all over, and I mean light in weight, light in spirit. You're walking around full of exuberance, and you're wanting to share it with the world. And it only takes one person maybe sometimes to just turn it all around. And it's unfortunate, because then all of a sudden it's like the students that come in from lunch and they've interacted with some meanness, or perhaps their heart wasn't willing to take it in, or their spirit wasn't willing to take it in, and now it's disturbing their mind. And then they no longer are that person that normally is peaceful, that normally is happy and thankful and kind-hearted. And so I think to myself, I can learn a lot from my own children. I can learn a lot from my own students. And as a mother, it's different, because you have to be fearless by demand. You have to show them strength. You have to show them, you don't share with them all of your hardships. As much as you can, you protect them, because why? They're creating their own path, and that whatever they run into, the only thing you could do is really instill in them strength and perseverance, and to just get up and move on and keep going, because no matter what, the world is unapologetic, and that they as children need to know that the only way that they can overcome it is to really just keep going, and then work it out in the process as you're moving forward. Because if you don't, if you stop, if you're at a stalemate, or the world is stagnant in your life, then someone else is moving ahead, and you have to be in servitude to do whatever you can that you're supposed to be doing, because each and every one of us have this gift that we are to serve. And that's that challenge within you, that you have to locate, this indescribable feeling of arriving, that some of us may not ever get to, and then, or that we question once we get there. It's like, okay, what's more, and that dissatisfaction keeps us going. But are we going without emotion? Are we going just kind of filtering, all that's coming in that you want? And and what we're filtering, is it a good thing? Is it of light? Is it of something that will help us grow? Is it something that will keep us unified and not divided? Is it something that will make you want to just share of what you have gathered within you, that would help the next generation to excel and thrive, and full of love, full of peace, full of joy, full of laughter? And you have to reflect and ask yourself that, because otherwise you are just that student that is bothered and is inactive in making any motions to really grow, and to really just accept it for whatever it is that came at you, and then attack it with your good might, and saying to yourself, these things were meant to happen so that I'm able to continue, so that I'm able to keep going and be stronger and better from it. And that is the learner. The learner is when I tell them, and sometimes I'm being very frank because we don't have much time when I teach math, and I'll say, okay, that was wrong, but thank you for the courage for giving me that answer. I'll just, flat out say, okay, well, here is where perhaps you made the error, and you let me know if I'm wrong, or you make the correction, you share it and whatsoever. But, I try to promote that teammanship, and making them understand that everybody errs. And it's in our mistakes that we learn and we grow from. And so let's just accept it as it is, and then move from it. But the ones that resist it, they resist the correction. They resist, not the ability to really make the correction, and then just accept it as wrong and not make any correction. And in fact, like, they won't even write notes. They won't even write in pencil because they don't want to erase. You have to understand as a teacher, then you have to say to yourself that is something that they're making a choice to do. You're giving them an option, but yet that is that character within them that they are not ready. And if they are not in the joy of doing it, there's nothing you could do that really forces a student to become that learner that you so hope you instill. And only thing you can do is one day at a time. So think about that, because yes, when a student raises a hand, they want to shine, and you want them to shine, and you want to call on them because hey, this is their final moment. And then you are inside you just as nervous because, or perhaps as a teacher, always more nervous than the student because you so want them to get it right. And when they don't, you know that there's different reactions you're going to get. Some students just fold, and and when they get it wrong, I go, that's okay. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you got that, answer. You gave that answer because many students have given that same answer throughout the whole day. In fact, that's my favorite. No, and so forth. You try to lighten it up. And you just hope it's like, okay, but you know what? You want to write this down. You want to make sure that you're making the correction so you don't make that same error again. And yet you look at them and they just kind of accept it as is. And yet the learner is over there writing and got it wrong. Oh, okay, I know where I did wrong. Let me tell you. Can I share with everybody? It's like they're proud of having chased the light. And I mentioned that in my article, is that the learner seeks for that light. It's like, okay, well, perhaps I was a little bit, in darkness and understanding that because I didn't have the enough in me to really fully grasp it. But now that I'm in that light, thank you. But, and then I would say, no, you did it on your own. So that's on you. So think about that, because many of us are still walking around students, and it's okay if you're feeling some kind of way and you're like, I just kind of want to go about my life today, just taking what I'm supposed to and giving what I'm supposed to, and then going back into my shell and then calling it a good day. And that's totally fine. But then just understand that you had that opportunity to learn so much, because imagine the more you bring in to your life, the more light you have. Imagine how much more you could share in this world that others could really, really benefit from. And so if you think to yourself, I don't have that superpower, I'm going to tell you, yes, you do. But it is within you to really search and accept and then embrace and then say, yes, you're right. It's going to take work to keep building and to keep journeying into that finding of what it is, because each and every one of us are special in our own way, and you were created to be something amazing on your own. And there's going to be many that may try to stop you because it's a challenge, right? As I noted with Newton's third law, there's always going to be opposition, and it's a daily battle for you to keep going forward. But know you have a superpower. Everyone does, and you just have to know your own, and more power to you. So in the words of my mother, God bless us all. Keep being that learner. It's okay if you want to be a student as well. We get it. But know that you have it in you to keep getting more out of this world that will train you to be the best that you can be. And so with that said, my painting a little bit is just, I want to say it's still halfway done, because the more you look at it, the more you say there's more to be done. But with that, you know what, I'm a learner, and just like you, let's just be a learner together and be okay sometimes if we are that student, because we're just doing life the way we can, the best we can, one day at a time. We'll see you. Thank you so much for listening.